Let me ask you something. Have you ever fallen asleep just fine? And then 2 or 3 in the morning, you wake up and suddenly your body feels stiff, almost stuck. You try to roll over and it feels like your body forgot how to cooperate. If that's ever happened to you, you're not crazy. There's actually a very specific reason that happens with Parkinson's. And today, I'm joined by a physiotherapist who's going to explain exactly what's going on and share 5 practical things that might help you sleep better tonight. So stick around because the 3 a.m. mystery might finally make sense.
Welcome to Living with Parkinson's. The good, the bad, and the reality. Real talk, real life, real community with Bryce Perry. Let's begin.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Bryce, and I was diagnosed with Parkinson's at the age of 40. I've been living with this thing for over 15 years now. And on this channel, we talk about the real side of Parkinson's, the good, the bad, and the reality. And today, we're talking about something almost everyone with Parkinson's struggles with: sleep. And joining me today is Nancy McGovern. Now, Nancy is a retired physiotherapist with more than 35 years of clinical experience, and she's also the founder of Comfort Linen. Earlier in her career, she actually helped develop friction-reducing bedding used in hospitals to help prevent injuries for both patients and caregivers. And what they discovered was that when friction was reduced, patients themselves were able to move more easily in bed as well. And that insight eventually led to the Comfort Linen sleep system designed for home use. Now, Nancy, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Bryce. I'm really happy to be here.
Nancy, before we get into the tips, a lot of people in this community, they tell me the same story. They fall asleep fine. Okay. And then around 2 or 3 in the morning, they wake up and suddenly their body feels stiff or almost stuck, almost like their body forgot how to move. Now, are you able to explain what's actually happening there?
Of course.
Wow. Oh, that would help this community beyond belief. But I tell you what, before you give us that, let's talk about some of the practical things that people can do. And we'll get to that question a little bit later. So stay tuned to the end because you want to hear. I want to hear it. I'm so excited. I want to get there. But I want to know some practical things that people can do that might help them sleep better. So from a physiotherapy perspective, okay, what is something people can do before bed that might actually help them sleep better?
I think what helps the most is a little bit of gentle, light exercise that helps to release all the tension that's so prevalent in Parkinson's, that there's so much rigidity and tension. But at times, like right before you're going to bed, you've had your meds, you should be able to move a little bit. So I'm going to give you 3 specific activities to try that should help contribute to maybe a little easier ability to turn, get out of bed, and those functional things. So, to help prepare for this, what I'd like you to do is think about your breathing. You've
Okay.
heard many times, I'm sure, about take some deep breaths in and out. I'm going to add one thing that I think you'll find helpful. So, when you take a deep breath in, and you can do this with me, deep
Okay.
breath in, and then as you exhale, I want you to purse your lips like you're blowing on a spoonful of hot soup. So,
Oh,
breathe in and out. And by pursing your lips like that, that creates a little bit of backflow of your breath. And that
interesting.
allows more oxygenation to get into your body because the airways are staying open for longer. So, deep breathing, exhaling through pursed lips, and kind of visualizing the release of tension as you exhale. So, that's the first one. Number
That's awesome.
two, thank you. Number
That's right.
two, just some shoulder shrugs. We hold a lot of tension in our shoulders. Okay. So be aware of that and allow the loss of tension. Allow the shoulders to go down. You can finish that up with some shoulder circling and going backwards. I encourage backwards more than forwards because we always tend to be more forward and flexed. So circling backwards can help with the release of tension. And then once you're in bed, a really nice one is to turn your head one side and to the other. And then with your hands clasped, follow your hands with your eyes, one side to the other. And that rotation will
I
help,
felt that.
should help a little bit when you go to turn in bed. So loosen up a little bit just as you're getting into bed, that rotation action, and it might help prepare you for turning.
I love that. I actually felt that when you said to follow with your hands. It was different than when I did that. It was fine. It felt good. But then when I put my hands there, I could actually feel it like a nice stretch, even along the side of my. That was really cool. That was awesome. How do you
Yes.
like that? And we do this thing, Nancy. We call it breathe with Bryce. So look at so if you breathe with Bryce or breath, they was now you can do like hashtag breathe with Bryce or hashtag breathe with Nancy and Bryce in the comments would be amazing. But that makes a lot of sense, because if you ever tried to roll over bed when you're stiff, it's not exactly graceful. Sometimes it feels like we're trying to rotate a refrigerator, and the stiffness is just incredibly difficult, really, really difficult to deal with. So, okay, that's amazing. I love that. What a great start, Nancy. I feel so fortunate because I get to like play along and I get to do these things. So I was like the inside scoop. So I really appreciate it. That was really good. And I love that pursing the lips too. I'm going to add that to my repertoire, which I didn't know. So who knew? Who knew? All right, Nancy, what would be the next tip that people should think about? So tip number two.
Well, we know that a sleep schedule and resetting the circadian rhythm is really important because we know that Parkinson's affects this internal clock. And there are about 90% of people with Parkinson's who are affected by sleep disturbances. So there are a lot of strategies that have been developed to help reset that circadian rhythm, the internal clock. So the first one is strict timing. Doesn't sound like a lot of fun, but I'm hoping that it will have payoffs. So this means going to bed and ideally waking up at the same time each day, including the weekends. So if you know your ideal wake time, work backwards from the desired wake time to figure out the time to go to bed.
Ah, I like that.
Light
I like that.
exposure also helps. Natural light is the best. And to help reset that circadian clock, do your best to get 30 to 60 minutes of natural sunlight in the morning. And I think even if it's cloudy, it's still natural sunlight through the clouds. If you can't get outside or the weather's not conducive, you can try light therapy. So you can get these boxes. 10,000 lux is the recommended number. Try that in the morning, the early evening, and this helps to improve that broken sleep that's so common with Parkinson's. Also helps a little with insomnia and your mood. So light, whether it's outside or through a light box.
You know what, Nancy? I bought this. So in Winnipeg, it's so dark, and especially in the winter, it's so dark. And when I wake up in the morning, it's so dark. So I bought this light therapy alarm clock, and
Hmm.
or like an alarm, and it's this big thing, and it's really cool because, so if I set it for like 7 a.m. at about 6 a.m., it's supposed to be like the sun coming up in my bedroom. And it's slowly, and it slowly gets like, lets more light in, lets more light in. So by 7 o'clock, it's like I'm lit up, like it's supposed to be like this light. And it's really neat. And it actually, I feel like when I'm not the best at remembering to set it up, but when I do that, I feel like I just wake up just like, it's just so, I don't know, it's relaxing. It's really cool.
Oh, that's really interesting. I haven't heard of that one before.
Yeah, that's one of my hacks.
Okay. So another one is to limit naps. If possible, limit your daytime naps to about 20 or 30 minutes and ideally 7 to 9 hours after you wake. Otherwise, you risk disrupting your nighttime sleep drive. Optimizing the bedroom environment. Keep the bedroom cool, somewhere around 65 degrees Fahrenheit or 18 centigrade, dark and quiet. And then the last one I've got is the evening routine, limiting fluids for 3 hours before going to bed to help reduce the number of times that you need to get up to use the washroom.
Love that. You know what? I'm gonna make sure that was for Carmen, dark and quiet, because she likes it not darkened, not quiet. So I love it. But Parkinson's definitely, I love that because it loves routines, medication schedules, exercise schedules, and apparently sleep schedules too. So that is so interesting, and I love those. Those are amazing. So Nancy, what about the brain side of things? So now that's we got that physical and the stretching and stuff, but a lot of people say their body is tired, but their brain suddenly wakes up at 2 or 3 in the morning. So what do we do about that?
Well, there are a few things to try to help reduce that stimulated brain. And the big one here that everyone, I think, in this world today finds rather difficult, but it's so important, and that's to manage your screen time, the exposure to blue light. Because blue light is found to inhibit the production of melatonin, which is important for sleep.
Interesting.
So do your best to turn off your TVs, your computers, your tablets, your phones at least an hour before you go to bed. Do you find that one tough, Bryce?
Oh, Nancy, I'll tell you, it's a, I find that extremely difficult because,
Yeah.
right, it's like I go to, it's sort of like that's when I get my best work. I always, and this is how I trick myself. I tell myself, "Oh, it's my best work, all my best ideas." It's explains why. It's like I review everything. I go through my day, and once I review it, and what I find with Nancy is this is crazy. If I could get a better pattern during the day, it would help me at night. Because what happens is I lie in bed and go, okay, and I think about the day, and I think, oh, all this stuff I didn't do. And then I'm like, well, and then next thing I start getting ideas and I start working. So yes, I find that extremely difficult, but it's something that you're 100%, you're right. If we could, if we could discipline ourselves, because I think one of the big things there is that we don't realize how important sleep is. Like it's such a vital part, and yet we take advantage of it almost.
It's just so easy to lapse into our other patterns, but
Yeah,
doing the
yeah,
best you can, keeping it in mind. So, with that hour of no screen time, this is the time when you can try to establish a bedtime routine. So, 30 to 60-minute ritual that signals the end of the day for you. You could take a warm bath or a shower, listen to some soft music, read a book. How novel, reading a book, not our
what?
not
What?
our not our devices. So again, the calming movement, like we talked about before, the breathing, a little bit of neck movement, helping to prepare for the movement that we hope that you'll be able to manage during the night. And the last one is reducing anxiety. And just as you said there, Bryce, you have so many things going in your head all the time.
Hmm.
If you can, a common tip is to write those things down on a piece of paper or type while then you'll be on on your screen if writing is difficult, which I know it can be with Parkinson's. So just doing your best to park those thoughts that go racing in your head and let them go.
Absolutely. That's
And then
amazing advice. Yeah,
I'm
go.
just going
Sorry.
to throw in one thing that's
Yeah.
really quite unusual, but I'm just going to ask you to trust me on this.
Okay.
So, for anxiety and that feeling of the fight or the flight reflex,
Mhm.
something that the body naturally does when at times of stress is you put your hand to your forehead. It's like, oh my gosh, so and so just won the lottery. Or, oh my gosh, I've lost my car keys. So you can see this, when people put their
Yeah.
hands to their head. It's a natural way to relieve stress and anxiety because that touch
Mhm.
helps to bring blood flow and electrical energy to the frontal lobes of your brain where you are more rational and you can stay calm. Pulls the energy away from that survival center and that fight or flight. So just a light touch halfway up your forehead above your eyebrows, the lightest touch, like a butterfly there. Just hold that for a few moments. Think about energy to the front of your brain, your just around your forehead area,
Yeah.
and then notice. See if that impacts how you're feeling in terms of your calmness. Okay?
Amazing. I love that. See, Nancy, you notice I got my haircut yesterday, and I told the lady, I said, my forehead's growing. So, and I want maybe I do this so much that I just take my hair away. But that okay, that's
No,
amazing. I'm
that's
definitely going to
funny.
try that. I'm definitely going to try that
Okay.
because I go to sleep at night, and I decide my brain decides to review every life decision I've made since 1987. Like I run through everything. So, um, now Nancy, before we go any further, though, I want to talk about care partners because when someone
Mm.
with Parkinson's isn't sleeping well, usually the person beside them in bed isn't sleeping well either. And so, from your experience as a physiotherapist, how do nighttime mobility problems affect caregivers?
Oh, that is such a good point, Bryce. Nighttime can be almost as hard for the care partner as it is for the person with Parkinson's. So, when the person with Parkinson's is struggling to move through the night, they'll wake up and they're wanting to change position, get more comfortable, but it just doesn't happen as naturally as it used to. And so, that care partner usually wakes up because of that struggle. The blankets are shifting, the bed is bouncing, maybe there's a little groaning and moaning going on, and totally understandable when you're feeling so stuck. So that care partner wakes up, does their best to assist that person to turn or give them a hand to sit up so that they can get up to use the bathroom or whatever it is. But that care partner sleep is also disrupted. And they themselves might also have underlying sleep issues. So it makes me wonder sometimes how people who don't have a care partner, they live by themselves, how do they manage when they're feeling so stuck in the night? The other big concern for our caregivers and care partners is the risk of getting injured. When you go to move someone else in bed, it's not an easy task. You're placed in an awkward position. You might be older yourself. The person in the bed might be heavier, twice the size that you are. These are all very real issues that care partners need to deal with.
Yeah, you're probably
And
tired. You're tired at the same time, right? Because
and they're tired. Care partners, they get tired. They're willingly helping their partner, but at the same time, it takes a toll on care partners. So we can't forget about their need for good sleep as well. Ideally, when one person starts sleeping better, the other person will too, because there's less disruption and commotion going on in the bed.
absolutely, absolutely. Well, how about that? How about a big heart in the if you're listening, watching, big heart in the comments for care partners everywhere because I think they're the unsung heroes a lot of the time. So I think that's right because you're right because when one's not sleeping well, the other is probably not sleeping well either, unless your name is Carmen. Carmen can sleep through anything. I'm just kidding. All right. Okay. Well, Nancy, that makes so much sense, and thank you. I love how you worked that in. So we took care of Carmen's care partner corner and the solo spotlight all in one, and you're right. And one thing I want to double back on here, and I was figuring this out while you were talking. When 90% of people deal with Parkinson's dealing with sleep issues, that's like over 10 million people.
Mhm.
Can you imagine 10 million people need to watch this episode and because they're all struggling. That's a lot. And that's just in the Parkinson side. Like that's just in Parkinson. So anyway, Nancy, let's talk a little bit about turning over in bed, right? And you talked about, them trying to help, even the care partner trying to help. Why does that become so difficult for people with Parkinson's to turn over?
Well, usually they're waking up, as you tell me, around 2 or 3 in the morning.
It does.
Right?
Yeah.
So if that's the time that so many people wake up, you have to wonder about, is that when the meds are starting to wear off? And during those
Good point.
off times, muscles are become more rigid, there's more stiffness, and you're already fatigued. So add to that difficulty the fact that you're lying on a horizontal surface.
Mm,
So when you're on a horizontal surface like the bed, the whole backside of your body is in contact with this surface. And when you go to move, there's that much resistance because of the friction that's being generated. So lying
right.
on your back and wanting to turn over, you have to do some lifting, raising the head and shoulders forward. You have to bend your legs to lift your hips. That's to clear the friction, but you have to lift against gravity. So it's like lifting the weight of your body at a time when your body is supposed to be resting and recuperating and recovering, restoring itself for the next day. But here we are at a mechanical disadvantage on our backs. We know that in people with Parkinson's, is that their trunk and their core, their ability to rotate is impaired by Parkinson's. And so that work and that effort to do that lift and turn, it takes so much coordination and timing and the ability to rotate, which is diminished in people with Parkinson's. So that's why it's so difficult to move in the middle of the night when you're looking to find a more comfortable position. It's either very difficult, and for some people, it's just plain impossible. So they lie in one position all night, wishing that they could just find a more comfortable position because the body wants to move. So we have to think of ways to make it easier for people to move, easier for the care partners to assist a person to move, and maybe sleep begins to
Wow.
come a little easier.
Yeah, that, I mean, that really hits home, and I'm sure it hits home for a lot of people. And if what Nancy is, if that's what Nancy, if Nancy just described you, give us a me too in the comments, because that's amazing. You wake up thinking, you can wake up thinking something's wrong, and then you realize that your body, you're right, just won't cooperate. It just doesn't do its thing. And when you describe that, the first thing that comes to my mind is, well, no wonder I can't go back to sleep. No wonder I'm awake, because it's the effort I have to make during the day to do those things, right? When I'm wide awake, and okay, making manipulating my body to follow and do this and do, in the middle of the night, it's amazing that just that effort to do it. I'm like, I'm working. I might as well doing a full workout. I might as well stay awake. So no wonder I can't get back to sleep. I really love the way you described that. That was really
I think you
so
raise a really
poetic.
good point there too, Bryce, when you say, I'm working, I'm struggling. And by this time, I'm like fully awake. And I think that's why people with Parkinson's who struggle to move in bed have such a difficult time falling back to sleep. We just
You're
call it
100%
this
right.
fragmented sleep. But what is it that wakes a person up? I think
Yeah.
typically in a healthy nervous system, when a person needs to move, the body and the brain signals the body, you need to move. And so you come a little bit more awake. You make the move because your body's able to move naturally
Yeah.
in a healthy individual, and then you just fall right back to sleep. But the person with Parkinson's, when they go to move, oh, can't go, but I've got to move. I've got to get out of bed to go to the bathroom. I have to. And they struggle. And I've heard that some people tell me it takes them 20 minutes. They've got a tactical plan. How am I going to get out? I'm in this position. How am I going to get out of bed? And so it's no wonder that effort and that brain power of problem solving, how you're going to move,
Yeah.
doesn't just rouse the brain to a fully awake state. And by the time you get back into bed and find hopefully a position of comfort, brain just wants to stay wide awake. So I'd love to see how easier moving might allow a person to fall back to sleep sooner than usual.
That's so true. And what you said is so true, because we we find ways to adapt, right? Like, they're saying that they're not the natural, normal ways that somebody would normally do it. So we find ways to adapt. But the other tricky part of that whole thing is it's almost like Groundhog Day, because every night you have to remind. It's like, whoa, what do I do again? Like, how do I move again? What? And it's funny because I've told Carmen before. I'm like, Carmen, listen, here's what I need to do. So kind of when I find a new hack or a trick, like, hey, here's what happened. I couldn't do this. So here's what I did. I stuck my elbow in like this. I pushed up with my right ankle, stuck my elbow in. I twisted it this way, and I grabbed onto the bed this way, and I was able to turn myself around. So I would tell her that, so that if the next day I'm like, okay, I gotta go, I gotta move, and I'll normally, she goes, so you're stuck, because I'll be sitting there and my brain's trying to figure out what I did. So I'm lying there. I know I can get out of this. I know what to do. What do I do again? And so then she can say, okay, get your elbow, dig your elbow. So she kind of goes through that routine with me. Again, it's not the way anybody should ever have to do it, but it's the only way I know how to do it, right? In that
Mhm.
moment. So, and you're right. By the time I do all that, it's time for coffee and I'm ready to go, right? Like
Mhm.
the computer's calling, you know. But I think that that's again just really well. The way you described it was amazing, um, and I really and that's why I'm so excited to talk about that big question we teased everybody with earlier. Because I mean the way I'm so excited. But before we get there, tell me a little bit about comfort linen though, and how the system helps people move in bed more easily. Because you're right, it's a struggle.
Okay. Well, I like to speak about comfort linen as being the first ever mobility enhancing garment and sheet set. How does it enhance mobility? By reducing frictional resistance. And friction only comes up when we go to move. And that's why people's strategy of just lying in one position all night, friction's not going to bother them because they're not moving. It's when they move that's when one fabric in the bed environment, when one fabric, say the sleepwear, moves over the sheet, there's a lot of friction that's created. So, to reduce friction such that comfort linen would be possible, I identified the best fabrics and used them in a combination with a non traditional design. So, it makes it very different to what anybody has ever tried on their beds before. So, the end result is a sleep garment that literally floats over the sheet, thereby allowing freedom of movement with relatively little effort. With all other sheets and sleepwear that are out there, our bodies must work harder to move because of that friction. When there's a movement disorder like Parkinson's, a reduction of friction can make a huge difference to that person's independence and comfort, and ideally to their sleep as well. And with greater independence, the care partner also benefits. So when we talk about reducing friction, studies have shown that the friction reduction compared to regular sheets and sleepwear is about 60%.
Wow.
60% less friction, which means that it can feel at least 60% easier. But most people, when asked, they might range their answer from 80 to 90% easier. And I don't think it's actually that high if we were to measure, their muscle activity. But to
Yeah.
them, relative to how it's been their whole life with Parkinson's, 80 to 90% is an expression of, oh, what a relief that was.
You know what, Nancy? If it gave me 5% better, it's worth it, right? Because that 10%, 5%, to think 60, 70, whatever that number is, if I think about that, because you always get me thinking. That's why I love you so much. Because, we started. It's exactly why we started testing the system in the Restless Ridge Motel sleep challenge and taking that sleep challenge. Because if turning over becomes easier, then sometimes the whole night's going to go smoother. And that's why I wanted to have you on this broadcast because yes, and Comfort Linen, I'm a fan. I'm a fan. I'm a massive fan of Comfort Linen. It has transformed the way I move around in bed, and I love it. I'm a fan, and I'll say that till the cows come home, because I just love it. But every time we talk, that's when all these other things about sleep came up, and I'm like, oh, tell me more, Nancy. Give me some more tips. And I'm like, well, how can I hog Nancy all to myself and give me all the tips? And that's why I want to share you with the community because it's amazing, just the knowledge that you have, but I also not just the knowledge, but the way you can translate it into like a real English. Like that's what I feel like for me on this channel, I do a lot of that. I'll take a lot of research and okay, this is what it means to me. This is what it means to us. This is what it means in real life or in real English. And I love that. And I feel you do the same thing. And every time we have a discussion, I'm like, huh, never knew that. Matter of fact, the breathing, I did the breathing and the head. I'm ready for a nap. Like I feel relaxed, we can't nap because you know why? Because I want to come back to the question we teased earlier because so you can answer. So why do so many people with Parkinson's wake up at 2 or 3 in the morning, right? And we suddenly feel like their body won't move. And this is the big one, Nance.
Okay. Well, at that time of the morning, it's likely that medications are wearing off and the person is waking up in an off period. So that rigidity and stiffness of Parkinson's are present, making it feel almost impossible to move. So these periods of low mobility at night have been given a medical term, a medical name, nocturnal hypokinesia.
Oh,
Literally translates to nighttime low movement. So it is a real problem. It's been given a name. And I only learned that name, that term, about 4 or 5 years ago when I was reading some research. Yeah, I found that. It's a perfect
I'm
description.
glad you pronounce it, not me.
So, also contributing to this difficulty is what studies show for people with Parkinson's is that body rotation, or medically called axial rotation, it's impaired. And so that doubles down on the difficulty combined with the rigidity and the stiffness of trying to move to your side and eventually up into sitting. So that rotation is needed for both of those very important functional activities, turning and sitting up on the side of the bed. So there's a few things working against people with Parkinson's ability to find comfort. And comfort is so necessary to being able to fall asleep.
It really is. It really is. Well, thank you so much because that makes so much sense because people often think something's wrong when that happens, right? Like, but what they're experiencing is actually very common with Parkinson's, and it has a name and everything, which I'm not going to pronounce. But that's amazing. I love it, and I'm curious about something. Everybody watching, if you wake up most nights around 2 or 3 in the morning, is it because A, you need to turn over, B, your body feels stiff, C, your brain wakes up, or D, you have no idea why? Just put A, B, C, or D in the comments. Would and just love to see that comes out at. And if you've ever had that stuck at 3 a.m. moment, type 3 a.m. club in the comments. And you know what, Nancy, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing all of this. I know sleep is something that so many people in the Parkinson's community struggle with, and if I haven't said enough, I really appreciate you bringing your experience and your practical advice to the conversation. And if people are watching today and want to learn more about Comfort Linen or get in touch with you, where can they go?
Well, thank you for all of that, Bryce. I just love coming on with you. So, to learn more about Comfort Linen and the sleep system, you can go to our website, comfortlinen.com. There's tons of information in there that I hope you'll find interesting and helpful. But in particular, check out the top bar that has a bunch of tabs and the one that says customer reviews. Please go in there. You'll find that the vast majority of the reviews that people send in are from people with Parkinson's. About 80% actually of the people who have Comfort Linen are people with Parkinson's. So
Amazing.
it really does work. It helps considerably. And, I'm really encourage people just to explore it and think about what we've discussed today and think about, well, would this help me? So I'll leave it at that. I hope that you'll check out comfortlinen.com.
Amazing. That's so great. And you know what? We'll make sure to put the link in the description below so that people can find it really easily. And there's also a promo code, Nancy, in there that they can click on and get a discount when they go. But that's in the description below. Make sure you check it out. Nancy, thanks again for being here. I really appreciate you. You're awesome. So
Thank you.
like just great. So sleep with Parkinson's may never be perfect. Let's be honest. But sometimes small changes can make a real difference. Preparing the body before bed, consistent routines, calming the brain, making movement in bed easier, and tools that reduce friction when turning at night. Comfort Linen being the number one tool that I know of. Sometimes those small adjustments turn a terrible night into a slightly better night. And honestly, sometimes slightly better is a huge win. All right, well, if you're watching this video at 3 in the morning right now, first of all, welcome. Apparently, this channel doubles as a late night support group. And if you made it this far, you've opened up today's Bryce-ism. So here it is. With Parkinson's, I used to go to bed for rest. Now I go to bed for strategy. And there you go. And until next time, I want you to keep showing up. I want you to keep laughing And whatever you do, you keep doing life today. I love you, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Parkinson's may be part of your life, but it doesn't get to define it. Thanks for listening to Living with Parkinson's, the good, the bad, and the reality. If this episode moved you, helped you, or reminded you you're not alone, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Want to go deeper? The Inner Circle is waiting. Monthly Zoom calls, 24/7 community, and a direct line to Bryce. You'll find the link in the show notes. Until next time, keep showing up and keep doing life today.